Yeah, okay. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Nimu, strength and conditioning coach for Malindi Turtles Club, the rugby club that is, the best club in the coast, somatic yin yoga therapist, mother of one, friend to many, secretly the most loved relative, and very loudly the favorite sister. Now, today we're going to continue a conversation that we started in episode 1. The body remembers, because if attachment wounds live in the body, then so does hyperindependence. And nowhere does that become more visible than in relationships, caregiving, parenting, emotional labor, and the pressure of always being the strong one. I know you guys have heard of the strong one. Kwanza, firstborn daughters, here's looking at you, huh? Because parenting has a very sneaky way of exposing every unresolved nervous system pattern you thought you had hidden nicely under productivity and good Wi-Fi. Kumbe. Anyway, children will humble you completely. And those who are parents know exactly what I mean by that. 1 minute, you're there trying to regulate their emotions because there's a tantrum going on. The next minute, you're in the bathroom, whisper screaming to yourself because you've offered this child a snack that they had asked for. And then they tell you they don't want it. How do you start coping with this? Let me tell you, parenting will humble you completely, right? So a lot of parents are carrying far more than people realize, especially the parents who look like they're coping. The organized ones, the dependable ones, the ones everyone calls strong. We need to check on them, because many parents are not just parenting children, they are parenting while burnt out. They're parenting while emotionally exhausted. They're parenting while dysregulated. They're parenting while overstimulated, while overthinking, while tired, while all these things. They're parenting at the same time as doing that. Also, they're parenting while trying to heal childhood wounds, while trying not to make the same mistakes their parents made. And it is not easy, right? It's a lot. So today what we're going to be exploring is what hyperindependence looks like in parenting or in parents, why some parents struggle to ask for help, how attachment wounds shape parenting, why rest feels so uncomfortable for many caregivers. Feeling guilty when you rest. That little voice telling you shouldn't be resting because there's other things you should be doing. And how the nervous system carries the invisible mental load. And finally, and this is my favorite bit, how yin yoga and somatic practices can support regulation and softness. So, karibuni. Now, many people are surviving beautifully, parents especially, and still surviving. It's hard out there. Tunakazana, but we are doing it. Somehow we are doing it. Kwanza in this economy, we are doing it. Yani, functioning well does not necessarily mean that someone feels well. You can be functioning really well, but underneath, there's that saying of the iceberg, where actually not even the iceberg. Let me use a better example. The example of a duck swimming. The top looks very graceful as they glide along the water, but underneath the feet are flapping for dear life. So, when strength becomes survival, right? There are people who genuinely struggle allowing other people to help. Parents often feel this intensely, but honestly, hyperindependence shows up everywhere. It shows up in friendships, it shows up in romantic relationships, at work, it shows up in family dynamics. And for many people, strength quietly becomes survival. And society will praise this. People will say, she's a superwoman. Meanwhile, the song by Karen White is playing in your head. I'm not your superwoman, but they're still calling you superwoman. Then he's such a dedicated dad. She handles everything in that relationship or in that family. Meanwhile, this parent that you're talking about has not sat down emotionally since 2018. And hyper independence in parenting often sounds like, ah, I'll just do it myself. Ah, it's easy if I handle it myself. Anyway, no one does it properly, so I'll do it myself. I don't want to bother anyone. Me, these two things that we tell ourselves, kwanza that one of it's easier if I handle it myself. You know, you give actually a friend of mine the other day reached out to me and was questioning why her young son was angry with him. So the story is she had told him that because he's been wanting to make his own breakfast, that he can do it when he wakes up in the morning, or actually prepare his snack, not breakfast. He can prepare his snack. This boy was excited and happy that he'd be able to do it. Toos. My girl has woken up and done the breakfast. Her son was furious. Now, her, as far as she's concerned, she's done something fantastic as a mother. Nimemsaidia mtoto wangu. On the other hand, the son is thinking, you gave me something to do, and then you've taken it away from me. Do you know what I mean? And what are the things a child could be thinking? You don't trust me, you don't believe in me, you don't. Meanwhile, mother is thinking, me, I've done something good. So even when her son was telling her, you don't even apologize when you do these things, she was genuinely surprised and called me and she's like, what the hell is going on here? Kumbe, we're all operating from different lenses. We're coming at it from different lenses. Now, sometimes it's practical. These things sometimes can be practical, but other times it's the nervous system saying, I don't trust support enough to relax, right? Um, a lot of hyper independent parents learned early in life that needing people felt unsafe. So now, even when support exists, the body just stays braced, it stays tense. And parenting can intensify this because parenting activates attachment wounds constantly. How, Nemo, I hear you ask? Well, imagine a child crying intensely. This child may activate a parent who was never emotionally comforted themselves. So that noise screams unsafety. Silence means safety. So the minute the child starts crying, their nervous system is immediately activated to this. It's not safe. So I need to shut this child up. Do you know what I mean? A teenager pulling away may trigger abandonment wounds, and we know how teenagers roll these days. Well, not even these days. Oh, even nowadays, I was quite the teenager. If you are to ask the relatives, I told you I'm their favorite relative. I am sure they'd have something to say about my teenage years. Now, a child constantly needing reassurance may overwhelm a parent who grew up parentified and emotionally responsible for everyone. Again, firstborn daughters, here's looking at you. Here's looking at you. You guys feel that burden tremendously. And so I want you to ask yourself, as a firstborn daughter, some of these things that I'm talking about, do they sound familiar? Even as a parent, but this one is for the firstborn daughters, kind of the questions. Now, sometimes parents react not because they're bad parents, but because their nervous systems are overloaded. And that matters because many parents are secretly carrying the pressure of trying to become the parent they never had, which is beautiful and exhausting, right? So let's talk about invisible labor of parenting. People often focus on the physical exhaustion. You know, I cleaned the house, I went to work, I cooked, I did. But the mental exhaustion, apana. And that's the real Olympics. Wacha hii mambo ya sijui I swept the house from top to bottom and sijui. The real Olympics is happening in the mind. Because think about it. Parents are constantly tracking school schedules, meals, the emotional needs, uniforms, homework, friendships, developmental concerns, doctor's appointments, safety, finances, routines, and emotional regulation. All these things, and many parents are doing this while also trying to function as humans themselves. And the nervous system rarely gets true rest. even during downtime. Many parents remain hyper alert. They're listening, they're monitoring, they're anticipating, they're preparing. So there's really no rest. The body just stays activated. And I guess this is why many parents struggle with stillness, because stillness creates space for exhaustion to finally be felt. Some parents don't even realize how tired they are until they start moving. How many times have you not realized how tired, or even that you haven't eaten the whole day until you get the kitanda and you're like, hi, I haven't kulad today, I'm high. I haven't had a moment's rest to, or even a moment to myself today, right? And so this is when now in yoga, they have asked someone to go into a forward bend, and they start crying. And they're crying not because of the pose, but because they're suddenly still and remembering all the stresses that have been happened. For example, the child asked for, where are the scissors, for the seventh time that day, or the husband, where are my keys, where are my golf clubs, where am I, for their millionth time that day. Well, they're all still trying to figure out their own stuff. And that's not ridiculous, the crying in the yin yoga, because the body stores in accumulation. Tiny daily moments matter, especially when a parent constantly feels emotionally responsible for everyone. Parenting has a way of revealing unresolved attachment patterns, not because parents are failing, but because children activate our earliest relational experience. So, for example, a parent with an anxious attachment may overworry constantly, struggle when children pull away, overfunction emotionally, feel guilty setting boundaries, seek reassurance that they are good parents. And you'll often see this in small moments, like a parent spiraling because their teenager gave a one word answer or has grunted the whole evening instead of, you ask them a question and it's, yeah, bruh, cha. And all these other names we've been given by these Gen Zers and alphas. Meanwhile, the teenager is completely sour and just hormonally committed to dramatic silence. Parent is spiraling, right? On the other hand, parents with dismissive avoidant attachment may struggle with emotional closeness, with minimized emotions, feeling overwhelmed by dependency. Yesterday I was talking to, I'm going to be telling you very many stories. My friends don't know, I keep these stories even with my menopausal brain. I remember some of the things we talk about and I will be bringing them to the podcast. I will not be naming you, but if you're listening, and you should if you're my friend, you really should, then you will know I'm talking about you. But yesterday, a friend and I were discussing this feeling overwhelmed by dependency, and we're talking about how Gen X parents, I keep thinking I'm Gen Z. I keep thinking I'm Gen Z. I'm not. I'm Gen X. And we're talking about how Gen X, we were so, whether we're self-reliant because we were forced into it. And I think it comes out in the way we've also raised our children, in wondering why they can't just figure it out. I mean, we did, so why can't you just figure it out? You know what I mean? Which is not a fair way of looking at it for our kids, because it could be the first time they're doing that thing, and meanwhile they're telling them to figure it out. This is why we talk about healing our wounds, these parents may also become emotionally distanced, especially during stress, and prioritize practical problem solving over emotional attunement. So a child comes to you and they're stressed, and immediately you want to fix it. You want to fix what is wrong, as opposed to looking at the emotion and working with what it is they're feeling, right? And here's the thing, I'm not saying that they don't love. They genuinely love deeply, but vulnerability can feel uncomfortable because their own emotions were never safely held. Now, let's talk about the fearful avoidant parent. And these people may oscillate between intense closeness. So 1 minute your children are the loves of your life, and the next minute you push them away. You know, emotional overwhelm, withdrawal, feeling guilt, and fear of parenting or getting parenting wrong. Many parents are parenting while simultaneously healing, and that deserves compassion. Because some parents are trying to break generations of emotional survival patterns with almost no blueprint. So it's just, you're just doing and hoping. You know that nini of throwing food on the wall and see what sticks is exactly what is happening. They are learning regulation while teaching regulation, which is incredibly hard. And this is why perfection should never be the goal. Children do not need perfect parents. What they need is repair. What they need is emotional responsiveness. They need accountability. They need enough safety, not flawless nervous systems. It's not even possible to have a nervous, flawless system, not even if you're a secure parent. Huh? A lot of parents genuinely do not know how to rest. And this is because the nervous system associates rest with guilt, like I said earlier, vulnerability, irresponsibility, losing control, falling behind. And this is why rest feels so unsafe. So even during rest, they're still mentally active. They're planning, they're thinking, they're monitoring. You know, some parents even feel anxious when someone else watches the children. Here's the thing. You know, if your child is going to nursery for the first time and you're being separated from them from the first time, you know, it makes sense. Actually, well, even nursery is far. I remember when I had my daughter. I'd never dealt with any other children in my life. I'm the last born. Yeah, so I'd never really dealt with children as such. And I remember when I came back to Kenya with her, she was about what? 2 months? And, you know, the fear of being a first time mother, of really not knowing what the hell is going on and if I'm doing it right and all these other things. And I remember a friend of mine saying to me, it was her birthday, and she said to me, let's go watch Eric Wainaina. She loves Eric Wainaina. I had not been separated from my child. By this point, child was probably what, about 5, 6 months? And I'd never really been separated from her, like not more, but seriously, like not more than 10 minutes. This was going to be a concert that we are going to in Tao. And sadly, by Toy, let me tell you, my anxiety levels hit the roof until Eric started singing his songs, and then I let go kabisa. But of course, even during this, you're still calling back. But even after that, you know, the different times. So, for example, if you've got a new nanny or you've got a new, I don't know, or there's a relative who's looking after the child for the first time, there's anxiety. There's anxiety. But also the anxiety shouldn't be the anxiety that then paralyzes you to the point that you're now not leaving your child with anyone. There's anxiety, and then the anxiety should go. It should now just get to the point where your child is your handbag and you're taking the child everywhere with you. Now, a lot of the time, it's not that they don't trust the person, but because their nervous systems no longer know how to fully switch off. This is where yin yoga can become deeply healing. And why? Because yin yoga asks parents to practice receiving report. Hey, hey, at receiving reports. I'm thinking about reports because child is doing exams. Our last paper is today. Hey, I wanted to say receiving support, slowing down, breathing deeply, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Remember what we did last time, unclench your jaw. Slowly, let's go through the body and see if you're clenching anywhere. Start at your toes. Relax your toes. Relax your ankles. Relax your knees. Relax your hips. Soften your stomach. Relax your chest. Relax both arms, both palms. Relax all 10 fingers. Relax your upper back, your spine, your lower back. Relax your neck. Relax your jaw. Unclench your jaw. Relax your cheeks. Relax the space between your eyebrows. And just relax your whole body, right? And so again, we're talking about what yin yoga does. And yin yoga also asks parents to soften physically, like we just did, to start noticing yourself again and reconnecting with sensation, right? Many parents spend years caring for everyone else while becoming increasingly disconnected from themselves. How many times do you hear, how many times have you been in a situation where you're asked, "Aya, what's that person's name, or what's that man's name, what's that woman's name?" Mostly with women, actually. And they're like, "Mama Nani." And if you ask them, but what's their name? They honestly do not know the woman's name. So they're Mama Nani, Ama Bibia Nani, and you absolutely lose touch with who you are. You become disconnected. Even when you're introducing yourself, you say, Mama so and so. Like you don't have a jina. Oh, kona jina, my friend. Sema jina yako. Reconnect with yourself. This disconnecting from yourself is not a good thing, because your body then becomes a vehicle for productivity and not a home. You want your body to be a home. So yin gently interrupts that. It says, you're allowed to exist beyond what you provide. And I'll say that again. You are allowed to exist beyond what you provide. You're allowed to exist beyond being a parent. You're allowed to exist beyond being a wife. You're allowed to exist beyond being a cousin, a sister, a brother, an auntie, an uncle, a father. You are allowed to exist beyond what you provide. And for many parents, that sentence alone can be very emotional, especially if, depending on how it lands. And it might not land right now, but I want you to think about that. Do you allow yourself to exist beyond what you provide? Or do you exist in that bubble of being a mother, of being a wife, of being a parent? You know, what do you allow yourself to exist beyond that? Now, many parents were taught strength means never struggling, never asking for help, always coping, consistently sacrificing, and always holding it together. And by the way, I think these are the things we saw in our parents. We honestly saw them consistently coping with. How many people out there can say they saw their parents breaking down, or showing that they were struggling, or asking for help? But the truth is, real strength looks like asking for support, apologizing to your child when you do wrong. That one I know is a tough one, but imagine you have to do it. You have to apologize, because how else do our children learn how to apologize? You hear people on the street saying, siku hizi watoto wa siku hizi hata wajuangi kusema sorry. Wanaingia matatu na anakugonga na hakuna mtu anasema sorry. Do you say sorry to your child? Because you are the blueprint of your child. Where else will they learn to say sorry but from you, right? Strength also looks like setting boundaries, regulating yourself before you react. You know that thing of say, okay, your neighbor calls you and says, I saw your child ringing someone's bell and running away. Here's the thing: Ding Dong Ditch has got to be one of the best games ever when you're a certain age. Now, not so much when you're an adult, because by the time you get to the door and those kids are gone, you want to lose your mind. But as a child, ringing that bell and disappearing before a person comes and opens it has got to be the best game ever. Now, your neighbor calls you and tells you they saw your child doing that. Ah, yeah, child is still outside. You at home, but by the minute you're pandishing your hasiras, you're getting angry by the minute. By the time the child comes in, you are so angry, you don't even listen to their side of the story. Do you know what I mean? It could be they didn't even ring the bell. They were just with those people, but already you've made the decision. They were with the child, they were with the nini, and in fact, even yesterday they did, and then and all the rest of it. And so you react without regulating yourself, and it will always go wrong if you've not regulated yourself before speaking to your children or anyone indeed. Strength also looks like allowing softness. Let your children see the soft side of you. See, Sazote, your sugu side, that you're an angry person all the time, but also admitting that you're overwhelmed. And that one can be a hard one because it shows vulnerability. People in their mind think, if I tell people I need help, they'll think I'm weak and I can't be weak. And all these are the stories that we tell ourselves. Now, children don't benefit from permanently exhausted parents. They don't benefit from a parent performing emotional martyrdom. They really don't. They benefit from emotionally present humans. That's what they benefit from. One of the most healing things a parent can model is humanity, not perfection. Humanity. By the way, there's nothing like perfection. You know, we always say, I hear people saying, I'm a perfectionist. What does that mean? What does there's nothing like perfect. And I want you to think about it, because I know the minute I say there's nothing like perfect, the perfectionist are already thinking this chick doesn't even know what she's talking about. But every time you reach that goal that you've set for yourself, that in your mind was perfect, what happens? You find it's not perfect. You want to go to you raise the bar again. And sometimes you do that to the children as well. You know, we expect perfection from them. There is nothing like perfection. So children learn nervous system regulation not only through what we say, but also through what we embody, how we breathe, how we repair. Remember, I talked about apology. That's the repair I keep talking about. How we respond to stress. Do we scream at them? Do we withdraw? Do we shut down? How do we deal with stress? How we speak to ourselves. Are you constantly saying, I'm too fat, I'm too this, I'm too the other? The kids are listening. The kids are listening and learning. And so, all this means that healing ourselves really matters. It really matters, because we want to raise healed children, want to raise citizens who, want them to be citizens of the future who are healed. We're always talking about a better Kenya. This is how it begins. Now, I want to finish today by leaving parents with this question. When is the last time that you felt genuinely supported? Not useful, not needed, not productive, but supported. When is the last time you felt supported? And what would happen if you stopped measuring your worth by how much you carry, right? Yeah, because some of you have become so good at surviving for everyone else, but you've forgotten what softness feels like in your own body. And you deserve that too, not just your children, but you deserve softness too. Now, thank you for being here with me today. If this episode has resonated with you in any which way, share it with a parent who you've heard saying, niko poa, I'm fine, while reheating the same cup of coffee or tea for the 10th time. And as always, be gentle with yourself. Strong people deserve softness too. Kwaherini, and see you in episode 3.